Hello everyone, welcome to another Music Talk Tuesday, and today I wanted to briefly address some songs that I find to be relatively good in regards to friendship. Now the thing that you have to understand about friendship songs is a lot of the time they have the kind of same feel to them, and that they express a lot of things in a similar fashion through the lyrics most of the time. Although you do find that there are others, and I've tried to pick ones that sort of expand into different realms of friendship, I feel that a lot of the songs are geared in a similar way, you know, having to deal with time, having to deal with of helping somebody out. There are a lot of songs about friendship that really do focus in on the same things, because it seems like when people develop friendships, they sort of develop them in a similar way, and sort of a commonality that I think a lot of people share when it comes to friendships, is that that oftentimes what makes a friendship is similar to different kinds of people. So I've come up with a fair list of things that I could try to find in regards to this subject. So I'll kind of explain my reasoning behind them, and even though they are rather similar, I am going to try to touch on the differences and why I feel these songs in particular stand out to me. So without further ado, the first song that I wanted to briefly address is You've Got a Friend in Me by Randy Newman, and in case you don't know, the song was actually part of Toy Story. If you watch Toy Story's intro, they will play this song. So it's a relatively famous song, and I think it's probably Randy Newman's most well-known song. There is a complaint that Randy Newman's songs sound fairly similar, and I'm not gonna lie, a lot of his songs do. But I think this one stands out in particular because it knows what it is. It's a simplistic song about friendship, and at the same time still has this kind of upbeat attitude that encourages us to sort of embrace friendship. And at one point you'll hear Randy Newman saying, you know, that towards the end of the song, I believe, as the years go by, our friendship will never die. You're gonna see it's our destiny. It's sort of like showing that even throughout time, these two friends are going to stick together. And it's sort of a inclusive song in that it's trying to include the other friend as well. You'll see how some of the songs in that deal with friendship tend to focus in on one person and how that one person perceives the other through friendship. But this song, I think, is really trying to tie in the other person. Like, you've got a friend in me. You're the one that's that helps me out through tough times. You know, you have a friend in me, and it's sort of trying to again focus in on that other person and putting that person at the forefront of how the other person ends up feeling. So some other like at one point Randy Newman says, some other folks might be a little bit smarter than I am, big and stronger too, but none of them will ever love you the way I do. So it is trying to focus in on those aspects of what as well, in saying that, hey, you know, there's probably going to be other people in your life, but I'm going to be the one that's there for you, because I'm the one that has established this really close bond with you. So at the same time, it is trying to focus in on that one particular person, but it sort of is a little bit more inclusive in like saying, you've got a friend in me. You know, you're as big of a part of this relationship as I am. So it kind of has this inclusiveness that I think makes it stand out from a lot of other friendship songs. So that's kind of my take on it. It's fairly simple in how it's composed, and that's just the piano and Randy Newman singing the song. So if you don't really particularly care for Randy Newman, this song might not suit you well, but at the same time, it is one of his more recognized songs, and I think it's actually a little bit more interesting than some of his other songs are. So again, I think it's worth checking out and worth listening to. And it seems like a lot of people know it and a lot of people like it, and I happen to find myself really enjoying it. So it goes on this list of favorites that I have. Now the next one that I'm going to talk about is sort of a song I kind of grew up with. It's a little bit overly maybe sentimental at times for some people, but I feel it still speaks a voice in how friendship really really comes through. And this song is You've Got a Friend by James Taylor. And basically this song is focusing in more on trying to tell the other person or the other friend, hey, I'm here for you. You just need to reach out to me and I'll be there. And I find that fairly interesting because that's really what makes up the majority of this song. It's just about this person saying, you know, if you ever feel like you need to talk to somebody or you need to be around somebody, I'll be there. I'll reach out to you. You just need to tell me and then I'll be there. And I think that's what a lot of the times ends up happening with how friendships sort of stand out, in that there is sometimes troubles that people face, and turning to a friend, I think, is one of the best ways people can overcome their problems. And at times it may seem fairly deep, or it seems like a song that's trying to be deep, but it's rather simplistic. But within that simplicity, I think it works. It seems a little bit more soft and mellow compared to You've Got a Friend in Me, which is very like, yeah, we're buddies and ha ha ha, having a good time laughing. This song is a little bit more, you know, if you ever have some breakdown, you know, you can come to me and I'll try to be there for you. It's really touching in on those more deeper emotions, I think, for people. So again, even though it is fairly simplistic, it does it in a way that I think is effective and really makes you think about friendship and really makes you want to be that person to reach out to somebody if they ever need any help. And I think friendship a lot of the times comes through us helping one another. So I think that overall it works out really well as a friendship song. So that's that particular song. The next one that I wanted to briefly discuss is With a Little Help from My Friends by the Beatles. Now this song is fairly it's one of those songs where it's during the Beatles time, so it's fairly hard to interpret exactly what the lyrics are trying to say. But I like that in the beginning it kind of points out this idea of imperfection. Like it says at one point, I'm kind of paraphrasing here. Would you, if I sang out of key, would you walk out on me, or something like that? Just paraphrasing here because, again, sometimes the lyrics can throw me off a bit. But just within that one particular verse, I get the sense of how sometimes friends aren't perfect, and we kind of have to see friends in that respect. Sometimes I think a lot of people like to say that there's nothing wrong with their friends, but in the end, everybody's going to have flaws, everybody's going to have issues, but friendship is about accepting those issues and accepting people for who they are, even if they can't do certain things. So I think right off the bat, it already establishes something that the other two songs didn't really touch on. There's also a emphasis too on like how, you know, I get by with a little help from my friends. You know, I receive so much from my friends that it sort of takes away the sort of loneliness of life, and it makes one feel like that they can have somebody to turn to. So really, that's, I think, all really what this song's trying to say. There have been some crazy theories as to exactly what it means, because sometimes the words people say, oh no, it's like a metaphor for something else. But I think deep down there is a sense of friendship. Whatever that friendship you want to interpret as is totally fine with me, but I think for the most part it is trying to say that no matter what you're going through, you know, you can always get by with having someone there and having friendships. You know, even if those friendships don't last, even though that's not really emphasized in the song, I still think it kind of shows that the narrator is inclusive in that it's just not talking about a friend, it's talking about friends. Like, I get by with a little help from my friends. So it's sort of, I think, trying to say too that, you know, there's other people that make up that can make up a circle of friends, but maybe within that time it changes and I get by with another group of people. So it's kind of, I think, trying to emphasize the point of inclusiveness in that it's not really so deep, but at the same time it's you know, I get by with having people around me, having interactions with people, establishing conversations with people. So it's sort of a inclusive song. And if you watch Across the Universe, which is a rather weird movie, you'll see how they use this song, and it is rather inclusive in that it's talking about multitudes of people, and but you don't really see the main characters really develop so much relationships with these other people, but you do kind of get the sense of, yeah, I get by with just having people around me, and whether these people become really close to me as friends, great, and if not, then that's totally fine. So it's kind of, I think, trying to take friendship in sort of a laid back sense, whereas the other two songs that I've mentioned previously are really trying to hammer down the strong bonds of friendship. The Beatles song is fairly casual, and it sounds very casual too. Like, I get by with a little help from my friends, you know. I'm gonna try with a little help from my friends. You know, it's very, very casual, and it's not trying to be overly emotional or it's just trying to be simplistic in saying, you know, I just get by when I can have somebody to talk to. So it kind of takes that from that approach. At least that's how I felt when I listened to the song, because of the way it sounds a lot of the time. So that's that particular song. The next song that I wanted to briefly mention is You're My Best Friend by Queen. Now, this song is very, like, happy-go-lucky, like, but it's really intended to be for that for the narrator, in that you're making me live. You're helping me get through whatever it is. It's just amazing, and it's sort of a song that's trying to emphasize the appreciation of friendship, I think. Even though it doesn't come out and say directly, thank you for being my friend, or thank you for doing this, it really comes off as a song that's saying, like, you're amazing, and you're great, and you make me feel happy, and I just want to say that I really love you. It's really a song of that wants to say thank you, sort of, in a way, but doesn't directly say thank you for being a friend. It's probably the closest song that comes to that, whereas the other songs are more geared on focusing on the relationships with friends themselves. This one is sort of expanding on that idea and saying it in more of an appreciative tone, like, I am just so happy, when you've stood by me, and I just want you to know that I really love you. It's that kind of friendship song. Some people like to say that can be interpreted as more romantic. I think some people mention maybe using it as a form of romantic love, and saying, yeah, you're my best friend. But I think this can be open to interpretation. Again, similarly to the Beatles song, but at the same time, I like seeing it as more of a friendship song. I like how it says friend in there, and I don't think there's anything wrong with loving a friend. Like, there's all different kinds of love. It's not just romantic, so I wouldn't really interpret it that way, but if you want to interpret it that way, totally fine. But I see it more as a happy-go-lucky friendship song that Queen decided to write and compose. So yeah, I think that's really all I can say about that song for the most part. Now, the last song that I wanted to mention is a little bit indirect as to, again, whether or not we're dealing with friendship here or we're dealing with romance. That's what I find difficult too about friendship songs, and because sometimes I don't know whether or not this is directly supposed to be a friendship song or if it's supposed to be something more. So I really tried to pick songs that I felt like were more focusing in on friendship. But this song in particular is a little bit more open to interpretation. Again, similarly to the other songs. But at the same time, I like to think of it as a song of friendship. And all of these songs on the list are what I think about when it comes to friendship. So this last song that I'm going to discuss is called Don't You Forget About Me by Simple Minds. If you've seen The Breakfast Club, you've probably heard of this song. And if you've been listening to 80s radio, you'll probably have heard this song too. But basically, Simple Minds actually did make it for the Breakfast Club soundtrack. And I think they were trying to focus in on the Breakfast Club and what the characters were going through. And you'll kind of see how the Breakfast Club as a movie is trying to establish this idea of friendship, and can friendship go beyond what people perceive? Can people look past what group people are in and actually see them for who they are as a character or a person? So I think that's really what the Breakfast Club was trying to say, and this song sort of says it in a similar way. You'll see in part of the lyrics where it goes, "Will you recognize me? Walk my way," or Walk On By, I believe. Those kinds of lyrics are sort of focusing in on the characters, in that there's one point where they're talking, and then one of the characters says, will we ever really talk again? Will we ever be friends? And I think the Breakfast Club, even though there are romantic relationships within the Breakfast Club, and maybe they are geared a little bit more towards romance, I see it more as a friendship song, because I feel like it's expanding on the idea of what friendship is, and that, can you see beyond what everybody else thinks? Can you look into yourself and see a person for the way they are and accept them for the way that they are, despite what social circle they're in? And I think this really has a lot to do with high school and friendships as well. And I think it's a song that people can really get into and appreciate. I think there is this sense of wanting to that makes you go beyond what they wear, or what they or what they do in school, or what kind of family life they have to deal with. And the Breakfast Club really expands in on that, and I think this song was just trying to say, don't you forget about me, don't, as a friend, don't you forget who I am, sort of. Don't you forget what this time together has meant, and look past what you see. And I think really that's sort of a touching meaning to friendship, and I think it's relatively deep in that respect. And some people can argue whether or not there's certain verses that maybe are a little bit more geared towards romance, and yeah, you could say that. But at the same time, I feel like that all of the Breakfast Club members were friends at first, and that friendship is sort of tested as to whether or not they are capable of reaching out to each other. And the funny thing is that at the end of the Breakfast Club, we don't really see what ends up happening. We don't know if whether or not these people interact again. So it's really trying to sort of show you that side. And I think a lot of people like to use this song for when they graduate, like, don't you forget about me, like, will, like, you'll think years later, will this person recognize me, or just walk on by, or you kind of wonder what will end up resulting from the friendships that you've developed over this time. So I think a lot of people like to perceive it that way, and I think overall it's a very good song, and I hope that it continues to be sort of interpreted more as a friendship song, and a song that people look into, because I think it has a lot to say, and provides sort of an understanding of what the Breakfast Club was trying to say as a film. So again, still open to interpretation, but I like to think of it as a song of friendship, so I place it in this category. But that's all I think I could say about my favorite songs, or my favorite friendship songs. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.